Let's take a look at what's happening in the property market this weekend. Across the nation, there'll be 2,153 auctions. In Sydney, there'll be 655 auctions with another 172 auctions around New South Wales. In Melbourne, there'll be 717 auctions with another 48 around Victoria. In Queensland, Brisbane will have 168 auctions and there'll be another 141 around the rest of the Sunshine State. Lastly, Adelaide has 134 auctions and Canberra has 87. Taking up the top spot of this week's most viewed properties going to auction this weekend, it's 8 Thornaby Drive in Mickleham, Victoria. Has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms and a 2-car garage. But the real drawcard is $50,000 home cinema with its own entrance hall. It has a price guide of between $650,000 and $700,000. Next on the list is 224-64 Macquarie Street, Tenerife in Queensland. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment located near the Brisbane River. It's the first time this apartment has been on the market in 2 decades and it's been featured in a number of international interior design magazines. The next one is just down the street, 143-53 Vernham Terrace, also in Tenerife, Queensland. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment with a 7-metre high ceiling. It's got all the premium features, which includes a marble sink, German electrical appliances, New Zealand wool carpet, solid brass hardware and Italian tiles. Rounding out the list, we have 9 Hyman Avenue, Edwardstown in South Australia. It's a 4-bedroom house with a price guide of $850,000. And also 47 Lobelia Crescent, Quakers Hill in New South Wales. It has the highest listed price guide on the whole list at $980,000. On to our top listing, and this was one for those with deep pockets. Blair House, located at 17 St George's Road in Toorak, Victoria. It's our top listing for the week. First built in 1936 by architects Hughes and Orme, who were one of the best architects around at that moment in time. It's set on a massive 7,800 square metres of botanic parklands, which were formerly part of the grounds of Victoria's first government house. The property comes with 2 residences, the main building, which has 10 bedrooms and 7 bathrooms. Second residence was formerly the stables, and that's been converted into a self-contained home with another 2 bedrooms. It's only the second time that Blair House has become available on the market. The price guide, $65 to $70 million. And if it sells for that, it'll break the record as the most expensive home ever sold in Melbourne. The previous record was set back in 2017 for a $52.5 million mansion in the neighbouring suburb of Malvern. But look, it's time to get a bit more grounded. We have Angus Moore here from REA Group. Angus, thanks for coming on the show today. Look, it seems like auction volumes are down a bit, but still looks pretty strong for the middle of winter.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Ed. So certainly we are seeing a little bit quieter, but that's to be expected. We're right in the middle of winter. Winter tends to be quieter. And in fact, as you say, for winter, things are remaining reasonably busy. We saw in June quite a lot of properties come to market. In fact, it was the most new listings on realestate.com.au in June to start winter since 2011. So a pretty busy start to winter, all things considered. And that's sitting against a background in which conditions are, broadly speaking, slowing. We're seeing prices down in most capital cities and across the nation now. Interest rates are rising, which is a very big part of that, and that's certainly tempering buyer demand, and we're seeing that flow through to auction clearance rates as well.
Yeah, now that prices are falling, are you seeing any signs that first home buyers might be becoming more active in the market again and being more interested in buying property because it's cheaper?
So we saw a lot of first home buyers through the last couple years. In fact, it was one of the busiest years in 2021 for first home buyer activity. So this year's a little bit quieter compared to that. And in fact, this year's really been more about investor activity, who by and large left is a bit strong, but were much less active in the market through 2020 and 2021. And in fact, we saw many of them sell what were ex-rental properties, which is part of why the rental market is as tight as it is right now.
Yeah, what are some of the big factors in the rental market at the moment? You say it is very tight at the moment.
Yeah, so part of the answer is that we saw a lot of investors sell out through 2020 and 2021. That means there's just fewer rentals in the market than used to be the case. We've also seen that household sizes for renters have gotten smaller across the course of the pandemic. Now, it's hard to know exactly why that's happened, but I think a strong hypothesis is that it became much less attractive to share house during the pandemic if you had to be isolating or working from home with housemates. And so we saw more two-bedroom apartments being rented and fewer larger houses being rented. And what that means is that for any number of renters, you need more rental properties, and that's part of why the market's as tight as it is.
And now we've got borders back open again, people coming back and migrating to Australia. So how many searches for rental properties are you starting to see from overseas residents?
Yeah, we're certainly seeing the impact of those borders reopening. So on realestate.com.au, the number of searches for rentals coming from overseas was up more than 70% compared to the same time last year. Now, that speaks both to the strength we're seeing this year as well as just how weak it was last year. If you think back to June 2021, borders were shut. Sydney and Melbourne were about to head into lockdown. So probably not a lot of people looking for a rental in Australia from overseas at that time. But we are certainly starting to see that come back. And we're seeing that in the official data too. So ABS data on arrivals to Australia is showing that migrants are returning. It's certainly not back to pre-pandemic levels, but it is coming back. And that's going to have an impact on rental markets. It will add some demand, though I think a couple bits of context are important. The number of searches coming from overseas is still relatively small compared to the total size of the rental market in Australia. And where people from overseas are searching matters a lot as well. It is disproportionately in inner city areas, which makes sense.
Angus,
Many of the
I'm sorry, we've got to wrap it up. I'm sorry, Angus, but thank you for coming on the show today.